Well, hello. Houston, we may have a problem. That was so cheesy, I'm sorry. But it looks like the Apollo 18 mission is not going as planned. So that's what I watched. Apollo 18. Spoiler alert, you know the drill. You're going to hear things about the movie in this. So if you haven't watched it and you want to, and you don't want spoilers, don't watch this, etc. Blah, 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 out of the way. Boom. So, the lore of this story is, in 2011, there were 84 minutes of top secret classified footage that were leaked to, I think it's like lunartruth.org or something, some website. This is like the lore in the movie, by the way. So, it begins to explain, you know, the whole Apollo 17, the last, etc., etc., etc. And then it just goes right into the footage of interviews of the three astronauts. So we have John, Nathan, and Ben, who are going to be the astronauts going on this Apollo 18 mission. And they're all super excited, and then it cuts to... they're talking about basically when they heard that 18 had been canceled, they were disappointed, but when they heard it was reactivated, they were like, of course we're going to do it still. They were super pumped. I mean, they wanted to go to the moon, right? So that's cool. Strangely, the Department of Defense was part of it, and it turns out that they're going to be setting up some relay systems for monitoring Soviet satellite activity and communication around Earth from the moon. So that's why it's top secret. So that makes sense. But they're all still down. They just want to go to the moon, right? Their families don't know they're going. It's like completely classified. Essentially, it's I think they say it's like a training mission or something, that they're somewhere doing that while they're gonna be on the moon. So it cuts to some video footage of like a barbecue with them talking to their family and stuff, and just kind of humanizing the characters a bit, which is great. So that's fun. Then it cuts to the footage of, it shows the launch and then the approach to the moon, and then the lander separating from the orbiter and landing on the surface. So John is in the orbiter, he's monitoring everything from in there, and Ben and Nate are the two that are going down to the surface to do their setup, their rock samples, you know, the usual moon stuff that NASA likes to do. Yeah, so they land, everything's groovy, they plant the American flag, and they're like, America, yeah, and all that jazz. And they start, they collect some geological samples. One of the rocks he picks up, he's like, this feels really weird, definitely going to take this one, because this does not seem like a normal rock. Maybe it's like from a meteor or something, we don't know, or he doesn't know. And they end up setting up the what is it, PSR-5 I think it's called, is the monitoring equipment that the DoD had asked them to set up on the surface to track satellite movement and whatnot. So they set up the first one of those, and they go back and they have din-dins, and one of them, I can't remember which one it is, I think it was Nate, tells a story about how, I mean, it has nothing to do with the story, but I can tell anyway because it's funny, about how he was cutting jalapenos and he went to pee and touched his little dink there and fucking burned himself. And of course the other one's laughing and calling him JP, jalapeno dick, and whatever. It's a cute little scene. Yeah, so the next morning there's some interference or whatever over the comms, and just really strange noises, like squelches and squeaks and squeals and like weird noises. And they radio John, and John's like, okay, I'll take care of it, don't worry about it, we'll fix it, see that comms are clear and whatnot, there's no interference. And he says that he'll be moving around the backside of the moon, so communication with John will be cut for a little bit, which, you know, they anticipated that because it's an orbiter, right? So it's not going to just hover over the location that they descended to, so that's fine. Then Ben notices one of the rock samples that he collected is lying on the floor, and he's like, Nate, did you move this? He's like, what? No, that's weird. Like, they were all bagged and tagged, like everything should be groovy. So for whatever reason, this one sample is on the floor. And they're like, well, it's contaminated now, so I mean, there's no point in keeping it with the others. Like, he bags and tags that one, and I guess marks it contaminated because they're not going to be able to study it because any bacteria that came from Earth will be on it, etc. All that fun stuff. Day 2, they're setting up more relays. When I think it's Nate, one of them sees footprints, like human footprints, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And he like puts his boot down and looks at his print, and the tread marks are different. So he's like, "Okay, this is not one of ours. What the hell is going on?" And they follow it to the edge of like a big crater, and they see in the distance there's like a lander there. And they're like, that's not one of ours. Anyway, it turns out that it's a Soviet lander, so that's interesting. So they go back and they go to investigate it, because that's unusual. They get to the lander and they see the Soviet flag just toppled on the ground, like it wasn't even planted or anything, which is very unusual, because, I mean, just like the United States, the Soviets were very, very proud of their flag. They're going to make sure that that thing is up. So it's very unusual that it's not. They enter the module, yeah, I guess that would be what it is, the lander, basically. And they're looking around, and it looks like there's wiring that's been ripped from the top of the components and whatnot, but they're very curious, like, when did the Russians get here? This is kind of concerning. That's like a huge threat. They didn't think the Russians had gotten to the moon at that point, so that's concerning. They're going to have to report that when they get back to the base. Anyway, they're able to activate the life support still. So despite things being ripped, I guess it's somewhat superficial, because the oxygen goes back on and everything, and like the lights go. Whatchamacallit. Yeah. They're looking around and they end up finding the body of the cosmonaut at some point, and his helmet's off, and there's a rip in his suit, and his face is all like fucked. I mean, we find out later what's the issue. But at this point, they're just like, he looks horrifying. It's like something right out of Nightmare. They see the rip, though, and they pull out a little rock, and they're like, oh, I guess he was collecting samples, too. That's very strange. And, yeah, they take it for whatever reason. I guess every little thing helps, right? Yeah, and they're trying to figure out, is there a second cosmonaut or something? Like, is there another one out there? At one point, they're sleeping, and, like, they hear banging from outside, and they assume, oh shit, like, that must be the other cosmonaut. They notice their flag is gone, like the American flag they planted, and they're like, those Russians, damn it. But no, they end up talking to, when they communicate back to Houston acknowledges, like, they're kind of annoyed. They're like, why are we really here? Like, did you know that the Soviets were here? Is that why you sent us, to set up stuff? Or did you send us to find out? And they're like, listen, our intelligence suggested that they may have been there. It wasn't confirmed. That's not the mission, but, thanks for telling us, because, it's kind of crucial information here in the space race. So they're speaking afterwards, and they're kind of like, okay, this is kind of fishy. Like, there's got to be more to this mission than we're initially told. Like, the Russians are here. That's big, especially during the Cold War at that period, right? So there's more to it than just setting up this equipment, which there is, but it's not what they're expecting, obviously. So blah 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 blah. Yeah, there's more interference. One of the outside cameras is like grabbed by something and dragged, and you can see it like falling and moving away from the lander quickly. There's some video clips of like rocks outside moving and shifting slightly. So essentially, it's alien life. They go to investigate like what happened with the flag, and they see tracks, but unlike before, these ones are not human tracks. So right away he like radios to record what's going on. He's like, this is Captain Nate, what's his name? Was it Walker or something? Or Walk? I don't know. Anyway, this is the date, this is the time, this may be the first signs of, physical proof of extraterrestrial life. And the other astronaut's like, what the fuck? What? Hang on, what are you talking about? So he follows it, and the weird foot marks or whatever. I don't know if they're foot marks, but the alien tracks. There you go. He follows them, and he ends up going to, I think it's the edge of the crater again. Pretty sure it is. Shit. What happened then? Doesn't matter. Anyway, he starts freaking out, saying that there's something in his suit. One of them, and the other, Nate, is the one who says there's something in the suit. And oh my god, it's in my helmet. And then they show like footage from one of the outside cams, not one that fuck the names, man. Not from Ben's point of view, but like one of the stationary cameras. They show like a thing crawling across his face, like on the inside of his helmet. And that was really cool. I like that. That was done quite well. Yeah, like the film grain helped cover up the CGI from it, because it did look a tiny bit CGI, but you know what? It's an alien thing. It might move erratically. It was passable regardless. I'm making it sound like it's horrible, but it was actually pretty decent. I should have brought a drink in here. Anyway, they're like, we got to get out of here. It's time to launch. Nate comes back, and obviously Ben is like, okay, so what happened there? You said there was something in your suit, and he's like, oh, I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I fell, and it's nothing. I was just freaking out. It's nothing. He's like, but you said there was something in your helmet. He's like, nah, I don't remember saying that at all. And it's like, okay, well, whatever, buddy. Anyway, we gotta get the hell out of here, right? So, oh man, no, that's not what happened. They he finds the flag shredded too, like the American flag that was taken. Oh, one of my candles is dying here. No candle. Bring me light. Oh, whatever. It doesn't actually matter at all, because like you're not here to see my face. Here, we'll replace it with this one. There we go. No, that's horrible too. That doesn't matter. I don't even know why I care about that. Oh, I have a fun idea. Let's take the candle wax and just pour it in something else. Yay! And look at that. Let there be light. Holy crap, that's bright. Anyway. Right, so where was I? They find the flag, and I have some tiny notes here, but they're not very good. I don't even know why I take notes, to be completely honest. Yeah, so that happens, and I can't remember what happens exactly, but Ben ends up being outside. I think it's like they go back to the... Yeah, that's right. Okay, so they're about to take off, but like Ben freaks out and like smashes the controls of their lunar module and kind of like fucks them over entirely. And or Nate does. I don't know if did I say Ben? It's Nate. Nate's the voice of reason here. Remember, Nate's the infected one. Oh yeah, speaking of which, he's infected. So that they show blood coming out of his... Did I say this already? I can't remember. But after he was freaking out and like denied everything, they show blood stain on his shirt. So they take his shirt off, and they show that there's a gash like this big on like just on his rib cage here. And they find there's like, if it's right here, they find there's something under his skin about right here. So it had like dug in and moved under his skin. Ew, right? So he's like, what the fuck? He's kind of like, okay, that's not good. Ben takes some forceps, and obviously this is painful because there's no painkillers and whatnot. They got limited supplies, but he takes forceps and he pulls out a rock, and it's like, what the fuck? Puts the rock on the table, and he's like investigating, like, what the hell is this? And that's when Nate just like smashes it with a hammer. He's like, yeah, nope. Obviously rock fragments fly over, and he's like, oh, for fuck's sake, now the entire thing's contaminated. Well, whatever. And then anyway, that's where they're gonna go, and Nate has a little panic attack, and he starts destroying the equipment, fucking the module over entirely, so it's inoperable. And then he calms down again, and his eyes are all like bloodshot, and his wound is now like a bit more infected. They show that later too. It has like, it looks like a poison or something. Like his veins around the wound are like, there's like black lines where the veins and capillaries and arteries and all that would be. So yeah, he's infected with an alien friggin' virus or something, or bacteria, or whatever the hell it is. They don't know. I mean, it's probably none of those, because if it evolved on a completely different planet, well, moon, I guess, it wouldn't be an animal or a plant or a fungus or anything like that, because it's a completely separate evolution, which leads to a lot of interesting questions. But regardless, where was I? Oh yeah, they decide, okay, well, we got to go to the Soviet lander. I mean, it was functional. Maybe we can take off in it. So that's kind of their last hope. As they're walking towards the Soviet lander, something grabs Nate and drags him off. So obviously Ben's freaking out. Nate's gone. He's like, well, fuck. I mean, that's a big note for me too. He's gone. There's nothing I can do. I got to get the hell out of here. He gets in the Soviet landing thing and starts up, and lo and behold, there's fuel and everything. So there was no attempt from the cosmonaut to take off. Clearly, I guess he was taken out before he even had a chance to react and like set anything up. So that's very good news. He communicates with. He's trying to reach NASA. He's like, this is Apollo 18, blah blah, Apollo 18, and there's silence for a little bit, and then the radio crackles, and you hear a man speaking Russian. So they're obviously still linked to the Russian Space Agency, right? And the guy's speaking Russian, and he's trying to explain, like, it's Apollo 18, Apollo 18. Eventually, Russia patches him into the DOA and NASA or whatever, and they tell him basically, listen, we hear you, but we've made a decision, and unfortunately, we cannot bring you back to Earth due to contamination and everything that's going on. He's like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? And they're like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. We're gonna tell your family that you died a hero and all that, but we can't bring you back. And he's freaking out, and they're like, listen, we'll stay on the line with you. Like, I mean, we owe you that much, right? But the decision is final. You're not coming back. So he's like, well, fuck this. I don't want to talk to you assholes. And he's just stressing out. At this point, he couldn't get any communication back to the orbiter because it was still on the other side. But anyway, eventually it does come back, and I guess the frequency matches the frequency of the orbiter or whatever, because John comes in, he's like, are you there? And he's like, oh fuck, yes. And he's like, hey, like, let's get you out of here. And he's like, really? And he's like, yeah, fuck the DOD. We're gonna get you out of here. We're gonna get you home. So that's fantastic. So they're setting that up, and DOD cuts over John's radio and is like, dude, you cannot rescue him. Like, he's contaminated. You cannot bring him back to Earth. We're telling you right now, if you bring him back, we're cutting communication. You will have no way to guide yourself back to Earth. And that's final, and you'll both die out there, essentially. And he's like, oh, are you kidding me? Anyway, I guess he's gonna wing it, or I don't know. But the Russian module is ascending back up towards the orbiter, and John is like, oh yeah, there's scene 2, sorry, where Ben is outside the Russian lander before it takes off, and there are like things swarming like all over his face inside his suit, and he's trying to like smash his way into the Russian lander, but something pulls him away, or he falls or dies or something anyway, and that's how it launches successfully. But anyway, as he's ascending up towards the orbiter again, you see a bunch of rocks floating, and then he's looking around, he's like, oh shit, and then they burst, and like there's legs coming out of them, and like it's the rock alien creature things. And yeah, good times. They start doing their thing, and he's freaking out, and they get in his suit and everything, and it's just chaos, and John's oblivious. All he can hear is this guy screaming, and basically as this thing is approaching, and he's like, you know, Ben, slow down, there's gonna be an impact. Ben, you have to slow down. Ben, slow down. Ben is panicking, he's not even thinking straight. There's obviously there's a collision because all the cameras go out, and then they show essentially another thing again saying officially Apollo 17 was the last manned mission to the moon. And then it shows like obituary clippings for the 3 astronauts, and they say that John had died in a training exercise over Tallahassee, Florida, or whatever. Nate was killed in a crash in his F-14 at one point. and Ben was a rescue attempt or something over the Chinese Sea, and that's how they died. So cover up. But let's be real, the US government wouldn't cover shit up. So this is purely fiction. Well, I mean, it is purely fiction, but yeah. So anyway, cover up. And that was a movie. What did I think? Well, I'll be honest, I'm kind of a sucker for these found footage films if they're done well. If they're done well. So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the found footage stuff. Some of them are done really well. Like Cloverfield, for example, I thought was phenomenal. I love that movie for like found footage stuff. But even dating back as far as like the Blair Witch was kind of cool. It was like the first major found footage thing. I mean, I'm sure there was stuff before that, but it was the first one that I can remember realizing that that was a way to do a film. So that was cool. But there are a lot of really bad ones too. So where does Apollo 18 fall? I liked it. I did. I like the concept. I'm a little bit of a space nut, so like astronomy has always been really fascinating to me. So that kind of helped edge it into a more positive light. But where am I gonna actually rate this? I genuinely really did like it. I don't know if it's either going to be the high 7s or low 8s, honestly, because again, it's like up my alley for the niche of a film it is. For most people who don't care about that kind of stuff, maybe it would be a little bit lower. I'd say for the average viewer who's not like really into both found footage and science fiction and, you know, historical space stuff, it'd probably be like mid 6s. But I'm going to give it 7.76. Yeah, that sounds right. That's what I'm going to give it. Should you watch it? I think you should. Even if you're not super into this stuff, it's a neat enough watch. It's a different enough type of found footage that, you know, it's not just ghosts and stuff. Well, that was another one. Paranormal Activity was like a huge found footage one too. I'll be doing that in Cloverfield at some point, but yeah, I think it's worth a watch for sure. Even if you're not like diehard into that stuff, it's still interesting enough that I think people may enjoy it. So there you have it, Apollo 18.